You kind of like know just from like having a brief like knowledge of what WWE was. And I remember thinking like, this stuff's good. I just started watching week after week. I was sneaking it though. I was like a 12-year-old kid who was embarrassed to watch WWE. I'm like, this is for kids. I remember like watching it, and I heard my like dad coming down the stairs and around the corner, and I would like flip it back to the Yankee game. Yeah, just watching the Yankees. Years later, he was like, oh, dude, I always knew like you were sneaking it. You know, like you were sneaking professional wrestling. And then later that year, I was like invest on like watching it every week. My brother's watching it every week. And a guy who fought in the UFC, who's a huge WWE guy, CM Punk. It sucks because CM Punk is a WWE legend, but a UFC failure, right? So it's like we look at him through completely different lenses. And he dropped this very truthful, what they call the pipe bomb promo here at MGM in Vegas in 2011, talking about how Vince McMahon is just like an old man who's just like out of touch with the company. He's like, this company is going to be better after Vince McMahon's dead, but it's just going to get taken over by his idiotic daughter and his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family. And it was just saying like all of this off-color stuff, which years later you find out was off the cuff. It was not scripted. He was just going off the rails, got suspended, came back and turned it into a big storyline. And that's why CM Punk's like a legend, because he just speaks his mind, and he kind of like blurred the lines between fake soap opera and like real life drama. So like that got me hooked on a completely different level, which years later, 13 years later, that was one of the best years in pro wrestling ever up until this year. Right now it is on fire. Like the best time to be a pro wrestling fan is in 2024. Because now they're partnered with the UFC, with Endeavor and TKO. I think it's like TKO Group Holdings or whatever, Holdings Group. Just a ton of revenue coming in for both WWE and UFC. I think they're putting on like multiple event weekends where like a UFC pay-per-view is going to be on a Saturday, WWE pay-per-view on a Sunday in the same city. So like they're putting those things together. But pro wrestling is my jam, man. Like I love just the storytelling aspect and all like the drama that comes with it.
Who are your top 5 pro wrestlers of all time?
Top 5 pro wrestlers of all time got to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, who's actually like my number one aspiring guest on the podcast. The reason I started the podcast at 17 was because of the guy named Chris Jericho. Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Bray Wyatt, who unfortunately passed away last year. He was only 38. He was like the Stephen King of WWE. He was just an unbelievably charismatic and creative mind, and he just threw up everything that was in his brain into his characters. Like he had this like very like cult leader type character where like everybody kind of looked like they were in Duck Dynasty. He had like the giant beard, dreadlocks, kind of talked very like, it was kind of cool, but also kind of like creepy. He was in like a rocking chair that would creak back and forth, like just like kind of like horror vibes. And then he went away for a year, came back, and his new gimmick was that he was kind of like this like Blues Clues, Wiggles type like kid talk show host where like he dressed like Mr. Rogers and he was all like happy and giddy. And they did like these vignettes, like these videos of him in what they called the Firefly Funhouse, where he had like all of these puppets with him. He was like a legit like Mr. Rogers type talk show host. And week after week after week went by, and you're like, this guy was such like a really like weird and eerie character. And now they turned him into this. But as the weeks went on, you're like, oh, this is going to get dark at some point. And he had like this demonic alter ego that he called the Fiend, where he had like this demonic pale white mask, and he put on like yellow contacts, kind of like Sith eyes. And he was just like the creepiest. I'll pull up a picture for you. It was just like the creepiest alter ego character. And he was like completely indestructible. It would light him on fire and he would come back and kick everybody's ass. Like he was just probably one of the most mesmerizing and charismatic WWE superstars of all time. And then I'm trying to think, Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Bray Wyatt. Here's kind of like the alter ego look. That's the Mr. Rogers character on the left and then the Fiend on the right.
Matt, how quick you pulled that up.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. Like I said, I could talk about this stuff for days. Those are definitely my top 4. I mean, The Rock is on a whole nother level when it comes to promos. John Cena's a guy you got to respect in any facet that he does. Um, Roman Reigns with what he was able to do. I like the guys that got into it that weren't necessarily picked to get into it. Because like John Cena is jacked and did all the right things. The Rock is as charismatic as ever. Like there's the guys that are the superstars, but then there's like the grungy guys that nobody ever thought would make it. Like CM Punk looks like me or you, you know? Like he's not like a gift. He doesn't have an athletic build. He doesn't have like that it factor, but he can talk on a microphone like nobody else. And it's so entertaining to watch. There's a guy named Kevin Owens I really like, Sami Zayn. I would say it goes Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Bray Wyatt, and then the 5th one is the guy running the company right now, Triple H. So Triple H took over the company from Vince McMahon, who was the chairman and CEO for the entire duration since WWE started. But he had sex trafficking allegations. I'll just say that within the last couple of years, had to step down as CEO, is completely out of the company now. And Triple H, who CM Punk referred to as his doofus son-in-law, is now running the company. So, and that's the other thing about the CM Punk promo is that everything he said in that promo turned out to be true 15 years later. So everybody can resonate with it. But Triple H, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, comes out to Motorhead, just like intense, badass, jacked, six-pack like type wrestler. Married the boss's daughter, but he's like a brilliant businessman running the company now. And it's just like insanely inspiring to see. As someone like starting their own thing, wanting to get into business and understanding the business side of things, watching him is awesome.
You're talking about Vince getting kicked out of the company.
Yeah.
Do you think it was right for Brock to be outcasted as well, Lesnar?
I don't know if you've read like the exact documents that were released, but it said that a former, I think it was like current mega WWE superstar, former UFC fighter was involved in the sex trafficking case. Now, there's been multiple UFC stars that have crossed over to WWE and vice versa. We've seen it. Brock Lesnar was probably the first. CM Punk going to UFC and getting his ass kicked by Mickey, what's his name? Mickey Gall.
I was not going to be able to get it right.
He had the dumbest walkout song of all time, the Hey Mickey song. And then Michael Jackson. Remember Mike Jackson, he lost to by decision in 2018, and Mike Jackson got fired after that because he was like being such a dick in the fight. Dana White's like, you'll never see Mike Jackson in UFC ever again.
That's right. Okay, yeah, I remember this.
What was the question? Vince and Brock. Brock. So Matt Riddle was another one. UFC went to WWE. Ronda Rousey from UFC to WWE. There's another one who was a UFC fighter who's a current woman star in WWE right now. I'm blanking on her name. There's been multiple. So when you read that, I'm like, that could be anybody. Matt Riddle's got a weird past. But like Brock Lesnar was the guy that everybody just assumed, I think.
And isn't it just because he's no longer anywhere around the company?
So if you ask Triple H, he'll have press conferences and journalists will ask, what's going on with Brock Lesnar? And he'll be like, Brock's still with the company. He's just at home in Saskatchewan waiting for the call. So like, in other words, Brock's still with the company, but we're not using him until this investigation either finds out that he was a part of it or he wasn't a part of it. Because if he's a part of it, he's gone. But if he's not, he's coming back because he's one of the biggest draws WWE's ever had. So he's still with WWE at the moment, but I think they're paying very close attention to what's been going on there because that is insanely serious. But there's she didn't use his, like the woman, I forget her name. She didn't use Brock Lesnar's name. And
to be fair, Brock's been around his daughter very closely, coaching her with like the track and field throwing and whatnot lately.
Yep.
That's interesting. I haven't heard anybody make that distinction recently.
I mean, that's just what I've read too. You know, like they didn't use his name, but also it is like you can't, because if he is home and they're not using him, it was him. And I think people suspect that maybe he did have something to do with it. I don't know, but time will tell. I think they're trying to salvage all of that privately moving forward instead of publicly, but I don't know. I hope he wasn't a part of it because he's such a draw.
Right.
And there's so many big breakout stars in WWE right now that he would have a phenomenal match with in the ring. there was this group called the Steiner brothers in WWE, just jacked athletes. And they have a nephew whose name is Bronson Steiner, who goes by Braun Breaker in WWE. He's got the Brock build, but he's like 5'10", former running back for the Baltimore Ravens too.
Okay,
just
wow.
insane agility, but also insane strength, kind of like Brock. Where like Brock's like 280 or whatever, but he also can run like a cheetah. Like I don't even know how do you even teach that?
Can't.
He's just a different breed of a
Built
human
different.
being. Just a different human being, right? There was one quote. There's two quotes from Brock Lesnar that are my two favorite quotes in the entire world. One, he did a promo with a guy named Heath Slater on Monday Night Raw. Heath Slater's whole gimmick at the time was that he was broke and he needed a big match because he's like, I got kids. He's got like 9 kids, right? He's like, I got kids, man. I need to support. And Brock's like, you got kids? I got kids. Get in the ring, man. And gets in the ring. And Brock Lesnar's a heel, a bad guy at this time. So like, oh, what's Brock going to do? And Brock never talked either. So Paul Heyman, who's like a great manager, was Brock Lesnar's manager and did all the talking for him. But Brock grabbed the mic. He's like, you got kids? I got kids. Get in the ring. Let's talk it out. Heath Slater gets in the ring. Brock steps right up to him, looks him dead in the eye, and just goes, I don't give a shit about your kids. Like, and this isn't an era of WWE where it's PG. Like, you don't say shit like that on national television. So the crowd just like blows up, and then Brock Lesnar just beats the crap out of this Heath Slater guy. The other one was, I think it was like right before SummerSlam, because this was in a time where Ronda Rousey just came over. Brock, obviously, this was when Brock fought Mark Hunt at UFC 200, which was like a crossover deal because he was with WWE at the time, but Vince McMahon allowed Dana White to let Brock fight, which turned out to be a big miss because Brock failed his drug test and then Mark Hunt won, right? After the decision was turned. And Brock Lesnar was talking about the possibility of Conor McGregor coming over to WWE because Conor McGregor's talking shit on Twitter all the time, right? At the time, it was Twitter. It's X now, but it's still Twitter, right? And Brock Lesnar was like, I take shits bigger than Conor McGregor. He's not going to kick anybody's ass if he comes over here, which is so true because when you think about it, Conor has made most of his money with his mouth, but he is like 5'8", 150 pounds. Like, I mean, he's like 190 now from the pictures that I've seen. But like, those are my Brock Lesnar whenever he gets on the microphone, because he doesn't talk a lot. It's not his strong suit, but when he does talk, it's just entertaining as hell. He's just like that country cowboy.
Yes, I love
ass-kicking
still
machine.
hearing it. You can hear that farm boy.
Because
voice
now
still to
he's
this
got
day.
like the faux hawk thing where he has like the rest of his head is shaved like mine, but up top he like grew out his hair and put it in a ponytail.
And he looks like a Viking.
And he has the big beard.
That's
just
right.
looks like, I'm like, dude, that guy is just a world beater.